Hey guys, what's going on? Steve Brown from secondhandhorology.com. Tonight, we're going to talk about something really cool, I think. You know, there's the holy trinity of watches, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and Vacheron Constantin. One of the least talked about is Vacheron Constantin, and tonight we're going to do just that. What we've got here is a very rare and important Vacheron Constantin reference 4907 Chronometre Royal with its beautiful, striking bold lugs and a very special bracelet. And we're going to talk about it more in detail. We'll see you on the inside. In 1907, Vacheron Constantin introduced the Chronometre Royal line as a pocket watch. Not until 1953 did it show up on the scene as a wristwatch, showing up as reference 4838, which had a sub-second, and 4907, which used a caliber P1008 with a center second. What we've got here is that example, the 4907. Look at this thing. Isn't it beautiful? Look at those lugs. That is crazy. Here's the crazy thing. When this is actually on leather, which most examples are, the lugs are even more bold and even more striking. However, what makes this one particularly special is this is mounted to a Gay Frears handmade 18 karat gold bracelet. Look at this thing shine. Isn't that a work of art? I mean, when you think about that, when you imagine a guy building this, no laser welder, right? This is a handmade work of art, the bracelet itself. Coupled with this watch, what an amazing piece of history. Truly, truly beautiful. Let me go ahead and take this off of the pillow now. Even the clasp work on this, guys, look at that. See that? Beautiful. Stunning work. Let me go ahead and peel this off here. And again, let's just take a look at that bracelet for a second, guys. Isn't that amazing? On the wrist, this thing has just the most beautiful feel. Even though it is a heavy watch, the bracelet so easily conforms to the wrist that it's almost unnoticeable, which is not really what you expect with a solid 18 karat gold watch with the weight that is normally associated with that. Now check this out. I'm going to go ahead and turn the watch around so you can see the side profile, these beautiful lugs. If you'll notice, they're almost straight, right? Almost straight. They were definitely built to be noticed. There is no question about that. On the back, you can see the beautiful Chronometre Royal writing, which I think is interesting because for this time period, that the text kind of seems ahead of its time, right? It just doesn't really, nobody else was putting anything this big and bold on a case back during this era. Everybody was a little bit more conservative, especially with Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe. So this thing is absolutely beautiful. And what's really cool about it is it does have the 4907 with the P1008 caliber. Does actually have a hacking second hand. I'm going to go ahead and make it hack right now. Let's wait a second to get the second hand away from the minute so you can see it more clearly. All right. So if you wanted to synchronize the watch to another watch or to a reference piece of timekeeping equipment or a town clock, whatever the case may be, you can actually pull your second hand out and stop the second hand. Originally, this was designed for military use. However, this is clearly not a military watch. This is more for somebody who really cared about the accuracy and importance of timekeeping, and clearly doing it with style. I'm going to go ahead and open this thing up, guys, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the history of the Chronometre Royal and what else makes this watch very special. I'll see you in a second. All right, guys, are you ready for the grand reveal? Are you ready to see what is inside of this? Check this out, guys. This is beautiful. Ready? Ready, 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 ready. Look at that. So this right there, guys, that level of detail, that level of finishing is exactly exactly what makes Vacheron Constantin stand out among its peers. Just look at the high level of detail, the finishing, the bridge work, the engraving. It is truly, truly a thing of beauty. What's really interesting about this watch is this watch was actually the first watch built by Vacheron Constantin to include both COSC certification as well as the Genevan seal. So, a little bit of interesting history there. The first Vacheron to include both of those things. The Genevan seal, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with it, I definitely encourage you to look it up on Google, but it's actually it's been revised since the old days. It was revised in 2012. There's now an independent firm that gives out the Genevan seal. However, prior to that, there was a guild of old school watchmakers that they inspected the watch, and there was a very certain set of criteria the watch had to adhere to in order to obtain the Geneva seal. So having said that, it was kind of some really interesting pieces, like even the setting lever was part of the setting lever pin was part of the criteria. So they were pretty particular, and it's a lot of old school watchmaking stuff and high level finishing that goes into it. But for the accuracy, guys, the COSC certification kind of says it all. So this was a watch that bore both the COSC certification as well as the Genevan seal. So pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and move it around a little bit so you can maybe see some different angles of this. Just a spectacular looking piece, guys. I'm going to go ahead and set it down and show you the inside of the case back. Now there's an interesting fact, and actually I learned this from a Phillips auction back in 2017. A very, very similar watch came up, and what I learned is that if you look inside of this, it says 4838. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. But it says 4838. The 4838 actually refers to the watch with the sub-second. However, in the beginning, they did not have any case backs that were stamped 4907. And in fact, if you go looking for them, there's 4907s out there that do not have a 4907 anywhere on the case back on the inside. They just have a case back number. So this kind of points to the fact that this is one of the first center second models using the P1008 movement. Another interesting fact I want to point out, we're going to come back to this movement here. I forgot to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it right now. So Vacheron did not, at this point in time, did not build in-house movements completely. So great. So here's the question, right? So what does that mean? Who built the movement? And why do they get all the credit for it? Why do they get the Geneva seal? Why do they get the the credit for the COSC certification? Well, the truth is they have a long-standing partnership with LeCoultre, Jaeger-LeCoultre, and for a long time, and I think maybe still to present day. Some of you guys can let me know in the comments. I may be wrong, but LeCoultre made the movements for Vacheron. Vacheron got them in-house, completely tore them down, and refinished them to their own standards, even going as far as rejeweling them, refinishing the movement plates, putting their names on them. So they basically got an unfinished, workable movement, and then they took that movement and modified it and finished it to their own standards. So kind of an interesting bit of history there that not a lot of people know. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I found it very interesting when I learned that several years ago. So there you go. There's a new fact for you. I'm going to go ahead and put this case back on, and I'll see you in just a second. All right, guys, so we're going to talk about the other thing that makes this watch super special, and it is the bracelet. The bracelet on this was made by the famous bracelet maker, Gay Ferries. That company, if you're not familiar, was founded in 1835 by two gentlemen, and it went on to become one of the largest factories in Switzerland at the time, and they had over 500 employees making bracelets for watches. Previously, when they were founded, they were making pocket watch chains, they were making necklaces, things of that nature. And then they kind of really, in the watch game, Rolex was one of their first clients. Later to follow suit was Patek Philippe, as well as Vacheron Constantin. So I want to ask your guys' opinion. So I have found zero of these watches on the internet anywhere with this bracelet on it. I had somebody tell me that this was a, so to speak, generic bracelet and that it was affixed at a later date. But that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if you actually can look at how well this is formed to the watch itself, it is perfectly cut to fit between these lugs and around the bottom curve of that case. I mean, look at that. So I had one guy tell me that this was something that was added. Somebody bought it and threw it on. Another person told me that it was, in fact, factory original, and I tend to believe that. Both guys, one guy he's an expert in Patek Philippe. The other guy is kind of an expert in general in high-end vintage wristwatches. I just have a hard time believing that that level of fit and finish came from anywhere other than the factory, right? It just almost seems impossible. But if I'm wrong, or if you have a difference in opinion, let me know in the comments section. I would love to hear it. I'm going to go ahead and actually I want you to see the side of this bracelet. This may be hard to pick up. This is another area in which they excelled in absolutely beautiful craftsmanship. I don't know if you guys can see the ornate detail on the sides of those links. If you guys can see that, boy, that is beautiful. That is a treat. That is something truly, truly special, guys. Imagine that. That's more or less handmade, hand-finished, truly amazing work. Now, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. And if you'll notice here, so from the back, if you look at either of the sides here, we'll start here. Again, just how perfect this really is. I mean, this is true craftsmanship. It's stunning, really, when you have it in your hands and you can hold this and you can look at that and imagine the skill that went into it, the artistry, the talent. It's truly a thing to behold. So again, I have a hard time believing that this was something that somebody mail ordered from Switzerland and had their local jeweler throw on this watch. I believe it to be a factory piece. The guy who told me it was a factory piece, he said that they did offer this as an option, and very, very few were made. Now that does actually sound plausible because, as we do know, starting in the 1940s, both Vacheron and Patek Philippe did develop a working relationship with Gay Ferries. So, highly possible. Let me know your opinion. I want to just point out one last thing. We're going to move down towards the end of the bracelet here, guys, and also just look at the beauty in these links. I mean, each one is just perfectly made. But we're going to go down here to the end of the bracelet. If you'll notice there, that is actually the hallmark. That is the GF, the Gay Ferries bracelet. And you'll notice it has a date code on it of 459. So, having said that, I really can't tell you for sure. Again, this is the other part of the mystery. Maybe this was done at the Vacheron factory. I don't know. But the fit and finish is truly impeccable on this. That is what I think. It is beautiful. I've really never seen a bracelet attached quite so well in all of my life. So let's go ahead and flip this thing over. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to put this thing together and I'm going to show you both the minimum and maximum wrist sizes that this will accommodate. Alright guys, so as you can see here in the clasp, there are actually 3 different slots for you to put in the bracelet to size it. So that way it is going to accommodate a range of wrist sizes. It's not going to accommodate a huge wrist, I can tell you that already, but let's check it out and let's see what it will accommodate. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the tightest setting. So we're just going to go tightest. I'm going to go tightest to loosest, okay? So we got there right there. We got it in the tightest position. We're just going to close it and latch it. And so right there, we are right at 6.5 inches, guys. We are right at 6.5 inches. So if you can see it right there, 6 3/4 is that line. So we're right exactly at 6.1/2 of an inch. Let me go ahead and open it back up and let's take it up to its maximum size. All right. Here we go, guys. All right, so you can see there, 7 is there, so 6 3/4 of an inch. So 6.5 to 6 3/4 of an inch is the wrist size for this bracelet. This is also another very interesting phenomenon in vintage watches, guys. If you'll notice, or if you have much experience in this arena, you'll have noticed that a lot of your watches that came from that time period, the bracelets were smaller. It's actually very uncommon to find a vintage watch with an XL bracelet on it. And the few that I have found with the affixed metal bracelets that have the sizing clasps on them, that are limited to a particular size, tend to fall in this same range. In between 6.5 to 7 inches. So it's kind of an interesting, I guess, commentary on society on how people have changed in general. Because by today's standards, that's not that big of a bracelet. But back then, it was kind of normal. 6.5 to 7 was kind of the standard. So, guys, hope you've enjoyed your time with us tonight. Hope you've enjoyed your time with this watch. I know I have. It's been a real pleasure to have in-house. This thing's an absolute beauty. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. We'd love to see you back. And if you're looking for something like this, you can find this watch on secondhandhorology.com. We'll see you next video.